country.
Thank you. The member for Canberra. The question is the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And Deputy Speaker, it is a pleasure to be able to speak on this motion put forward by the member for Fenner. And as he knows, I share the spirit of the sentiment of the motion, not just in the philosophy, though I do, but also the practice, which I also do. And let me outline the basis in which I do. I believe that government should be as close to the people it seeks to serve as humanly possible. I do not want monopoly Canberra, because government by its nature ultimately bullies people. It does not matter who's in government, it does not matter the nature or the intent or the spirit. In the end, that is what it does, because it is based on coercion and force. And if you are to have coercion and force, you must make sure that control of government is as close to people as possible, because it enables people to be in the best position to change the outcome if they do not like how that force is being utilised. It is the basis in which I am a staunch federalist, and one of the things that disturbs me most, again, regardless of who's in power, is how much there's been a centralist tendency into this place, this chamber, this city, at the expense of citizens. And while I'm sure the member for Canberra and the member for Fenner like to wax lyrical, in the end the Labor Party is a critical part of this drift of power away from citizens, families and communities, and even away from state capitals to Canberra. And I agree, we need to take it back, and we need to take it back every step of the way and fight for it every step of the way. Because in practice, that's what this resolution is about. A territory is not a state, but the people who live in the ACT are sovereign to be able to determine their own lives and their own destiny. And while the Commonwealth may, under the Constitution, have the power to override it, it should not be in a framework of competition of laws which gives citizens choice about where it is that they live. And of course, this issue is one of many that the federal parliament has overruled. The reality is it is not correct, as the member for Canberra outlined, that the fastest way to marriage equality was to allow the ACT the power to legislate. They don't have that power to legislate. We know full well the High Court actually overruled them and found that to be a misgiving or a misdeed. The reality is it was a decision of the federal parliament, and the fastest way to marriage equality was actually that the opposition stopped blocking a pathway taken to an election for people to have their say. And then that was respected by the parliament of this country. So we can confect any outline we want. That is the reality. But regardless, we're not talking about that issue. We're talking about the right of the people of the Australian Capital Territory to decide their own destiny. And so, as I said already, I took it to my pre-selection. When I was asked the question what my view was around people's right to die with dignity, I said I was in favour of it. When I have been asked in the community what my view is, it has been consistent and exactly the same. The question has only ever been to me about the safeguards and the mechanisms by which it is achieved, and that is not a decision for this parliament. It is a decision for the Australian Capital Territory, whether I agree or not with their legislation. And if their legislation is wrong, it is their decision to fix it, not our job to override it. And so I make no bones about it. In fact, and then just to continue on with the point, not just of philosophy, but in practice, I share a speech from the member for Mornington, David Morris, MP, in the debate in the Victorian Parliament, which I think reflects the sentiment and the attitude that I believe. In the discussion on 18 October 2017 on their voluntary assisted dying bill. He said, quote, "If the bill actually proposed a legal framework for suicide on demand, as some people have characterised it, then I would dismiss the bill out of hand. But that is what is not proposed. What is proposed is that terminally ill patients who will, without question, die within months, potentially suffer enormous pain and suffer undoubted indignities, be given the choice to depart this world on their own terms and on their own future, in their own time. Should the bill pass the second reading stage, there will be ample opportunity to consider the minutiae, but in the debate I think there is one central question to be made. To what extent does the Parliament believe an individual should be able to determine their own destiny? I believe in freedom of the individual. I believe in freedom of religion, freedom of speech, free assembly, freedom of the press, and of course, free markets. I also believe that it is not tenable to claim to support individual freedoms and then to presume to impose through the law your own moral and ethical code. Those are matters for the individual, not for the paternalism. Paternalism once had a place in this state, meaning Victoria, end quote. It should not in the future.
I thank the member for